Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Cardiac Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Cardiac Radio. We're here live from the Chantilly, Virginia studios at Cardiac Radio. And today, we're going to talk about the topic of Native American healing with Dr. Mehl-Madrona. He's coming back today to Cardiac Radio. He is a physician who graduated from Stanford University School of Medicine and trained in family medicine, psychiatry, and clinical psychology. He has been on the faculties of several medical schools and most recently as an associate professor of family medicine at the University of Saskatchewan College of Medicine. He's working with Aboriginal communities to develop uniquely Aboriginal styles of healing and healthcare for use in those communities. He's currently working with Amrita Incorporation to develop a program for people with schizophrenia that involves healing through community. He is the author of the trilogy, the Coyote Trilogy, Coyote Medicine, Coyote Healing, Coyote Wisdom, which talks about native culture and what it has to offer to the modern world. He has a Cherokee and Lakota heritage, very unique. And I've got to know he's coming very soon to give special workshops, 5 nights of workshops in May of this year and June this year at the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health. But you can get to know more about him today here at the program. Well, let me tell you also about the United States Spiritist Council Symposium. It's the 10th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. It's going to happen this year in San Diego, California. And the theme is The Transformative Power of Love. It's going to happen on April the 23rd in San Diego, California. Go to spiritistsymposium.org and get to know information about the program. The program begins at 9 a.m. and it finishes at 5:30, almost like 6 p.m. Okay? Several speakers from around the United States are going to be there. And, the good news is also that if you have children, they can also participate. There is a special program for them that is going to happen on the same location, just a different room, children and teenagers from 6 to 16 years of age. And, the age restriction for both adults and children are so symbolic. It's $20 for adults and $10 for children. Unbelievable. It's just to help defray the costs, but still, it's a bargain. We think you should come because it's an opportunity to make new friends. It's an opportunity to meet old friends, if that's the case, and also an opportunity for your children and teenagers to create a memorable moment for them that can make a difference in their lives. I'll tell you this. I've always participated in Spiritist meetings and events since I was probably my mom's belly. And I'll never forget. Sometimes we think it's about many days. Sometimes one day, one memory can change our lives. I'll never forget when I was probably 7 or 8 years of age in Rio de Janeiro when we were living there. And my parents took me to a Spiritist center, St. Francis Spiritist Center there in Ilha do Governador, Rio de Janeiro City. And I will never forget, we were seated at our desks. For some reason, we're using like a school setting. And I remember the teacher talking about Moses from a Spiritist perspective. She talked about the Moab Mount and the story about Moses, and of all the teachings of Spiritism that I was taught in my childhood, that day was the one that was more impacting for me. And I grew up later thinking and asking myself, why was that the most impactant teaching? Later, when I came to the United States and kept working on, disseminating Spiritism, in one of my meditations, I've got the information that one of the main spirit guide that guides my life, my guardian angel, Joseph, he has also a background back there, in the Hebrew community. So it's fascinating. So it's not by chance. What am I telling you? Telling you that you're not wasting your time when you are spreading seeds of love, sharing these teachings with your children. They will be using for purposes later in life, and it can save lives, especially when challenges appear in our lives. So it's always worthwhile bringing your children to events like this. If you're going to be in Connecticut this Sunday, in the community of the city of Danbury, I'll be there with my family, Carlos and Virginia, God permitting. We'll be there joining the Spiritist, the Allan Kardec Spiritist Center, and we're going to have a special meeting with the parents at 9 a.m., and later we're going to have a meeting with children of 10 years of age onwards, children and teenagers. We're going to have a special workshop on challenges of youth. It's going to be at 10:45 a.m. You can join us. You can send us an email at kardecradio@gmail.com if you want to know more information about where the event is going to be. It's going to be the challenges with youth, a meeting with the parents, and then a meeting with the children and the teenagers. Well, the introduction about the topic today. Many people are asking why we're talking about Native American healing. Oh, let me tell you the reason why. Open the book. I'm flipping the pages here. Pages of the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism by Allan Kardec. And it says, Universal Teachings, the universal test of the Spirit's teachings. If Spiritism were a purely human concept, it would have as guarantee only the enlightenment of the one who had conceived it. Now, no one in this world would make it the ill-founded claim of possessing the absolute truth by him or herself. If the Spirit who have revealed it had manifested to only one person, nothing would guarantee its origin. So later he tells us that in reality, the spirits who reveal the teachings that later were compiled by Kardec are universal, and the universality of the teachings is what comprises the reality of Spiritism. So, we're not talking about anything new. We're talking about things that have been happening on the earth since ancient times. We cannot despise it. We cannot undermine it. To the contrary, the journey that Dr. Mehl-Madrona is taking for himself, rescuing the wisdom of these communities and bringing to mainstream medicine, is truly the effort to change a paradigm that is really not working well for humanity. Medicine needs a shift. It needs a change. And Dr. Mehl-Madrona is going to talk about this today with us and much more. You can participate by calling in 858-769-4705 or joining us at Blog Talk Radio chat room. We have a chat room where you can send your comments or questions. Okay? Our emails and Facebook page for Kardec Radio are also a mechanism right now to kickstart the program. We're going to stream to you a message that people have been asking us to repeat. It's Emmanuel's message through the mediums, to the hand of the medium Chico Xavier. Spiritual immunization. Right after this, Dr. Mehl-Madrona with us.
Spiritual Immunization. Emmanuel, Chico Xavier. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Jesus, Matthew 5, verse 44. In fact, we have two classes of opponents, those who disagree with us and those others whom we have raised with our own culture of intolerance. The former are inevitable. They come from all walks of life, especially when the individual is moving forward in the trials of elevation. Neither Jesus lived or lives without them. The latter, however, are those whose appearance we can and should avoid. For this, let us enumerate some of the losses that we will certainly acquire when we create aversions in our way. Outbreaks of forceful vibrations, centers of systematic opposition, silent threats, closed doors to spontaneous contests, opinions almost always biased regarding us, unjustified suspicions, purposes of retaliation, free antipathies, preventions and sarcasm, hassles, spiritual shadows. Any of the related plots in this list of disadvantages would be enough to embitter a large range of our life, annihilating our precious opportunities or reducing our
Defense Against Obsession. Brother X, Spirit, Chico Xavier, Medium. It hurt to see Brother Mauricio Tessi prostrated in acute rheumatoid arthritis. He prayed, suffered, hoped. Pain spread itself from his swollen knee to the whole body. We accompanied his discarnated mother, Mrs. Etelvina, who was a dedicated friend of ours while on earth. We shared the prayer, while the team of spiritual nurses acted with spiritual healing resources from our plan of action. Ending the aiding task, my old friend stood up and respectfully asked to the head of the team,
My dear friend, can I, in the mother's position, know why so much delay for the final recovery of my son?
The questioned individual simply replied, Undoubtedly. Here is the record of his reactions in the most recent days. And with the accuracy of a technician in his own expertise, he drew from his briefcase a small sheet of paper on which we could immediately read the following instructions, simple and expressive, which were happening on the very day of our presence in the humble room. Mauricio Tessi, 36 years, incarnated. Nature of disease, providential. Phase, experimental. Individual merit due to service to the community until the first symptoms of the disease. None. Reason for being ill, defense against obsession and madness. Help to be given, help Mauricio with the magnetic passes, but only for physical subsistence and controlled relief until positive spiritual betterment. History. Mauricio's friends and benefactors living on higher spheres vouch for his present reincarnation. They also observe Mauricio's tendency to completely spoil the given opportunity. Worried about it, they had requested that he remain ill, according to previous lives' debts expressed in his perispirit. They took such action to prevent Mauricio from associating with unhappy entities related to his previous lives. Such entities were, for the longest time, connected to vampirization and criminality, to whom Mauricio was little by little getting accommodated. Observations from January 4th to the 29th, 1967. Date. Physical condition and spiritual condition. Day 4. Crisis. Faith, prayer, humility. Day 5. Better, tranquility, and stubbornness. Day 6. Greater improvement. Shady thoughts, obsessors nearby. Day 7. Crisis. Obedience, resignation, kindness. Day 8. Acute crisis. Moral elevation, prayer. Day 9. Acute crisis. Noble promises of outreach service, mental elevation. Day 10. Better. Good mood, rebelliousness. Day 11. Great improvement. Intolerance, less dignified ideas. Attracted obsessors. Day 12. Great improvement. Imbalance. Obsessors in his bedroom. Day 13. Crisis. Serenity. Day 14. Aggravated crisis. Superior emotions. Day 15. Acute crisis. Moving faith. Compassion. Generosity. Day 16. Improvement. Calmness. Irritation. Day 17. Great improvement. Unmentionable thoughts. Upcoming obsessors. Day 18. Great improvement. Obsessors dominating. Mauricio. Day 19. Crisis. Repelled obsessors. Day 20. Acute crisis. Trust in God. Day 21. Acute crisis. Plans of doing charity work. Promises of sanctifying work. Day 22. Improvement. Boredom. Bitterness. Day 23. Great improvement. Pitiable ideas. Interested obsessors interested. Day 24. Great improvement. Obsessors by his aura. Inner chaos. Day 25. Crisis. Gentleness. Confidence. Day 26. Acute crisis. Affability. Benevolence. Day 27. Acute crisis. Sweetness. Lucidity. Compassion towards others. Day 28. Acute crisis. Beautiful inner transformation. Rays of light. Moments of prayer. Sister Etelvina returned her son's chart between quiet and sad, thanking the devoted cooperator.
Thank you, friend. Mauricio is my son. However, both he and I, as much as you, we're children of God, and the law of the Lord was created for the good of us all.
Soon after, the aiding team dispersed. For a long time, I still remained alongside the sick, trying to meditate on my own needs and take the lesson in.
Hi, dear listener. This is Vanessa Anceloni here at Kardec Radio, and I'm just chatting here with Barbara and Dr. Mehl-Madrona. Mehl-Madrona, they're in Vermont, the Vermont Mountains. They're having some issues with their signal there, so we're gonna have to wait. Meanwhile, when we have to wait, there's no other way, we're going to talk about something else. People have been asking us many questions regarding, for example, how to stay kind during the current times of the world. The world is so in such a big turmoil. Well, do you believe it that kindness attracts good spirits? That was actually a statement by the illuminated spirits to Kardec. Kindness attracts good company. You know, there is a message by a spirit named Valerian through the medium Valdo Vieira, who worked with Chico Xavier in Spiritism, and this became a book. It's like the spirits say, it's like when you look at a rotten fruit on the soil. It seems spoiled and probably doesn't smell good. But the bottom line is it has a purpose. So Jesus when he taught us, looking at a dead dog on the ground. The disciples were, deviating from it with some form of aversion. And Jesus looked at the dog and said, "Wow, this dog had beautiful teeth." I know you can laugh at it too, but it's so interesting, that take on it. Nowadays, many people are worried about, for example, the elections in the United States, how the leaders in the world are behaving sometimes in such a immoral way, I would say. And what do? Stay kind. Becoming mad and crazy is not going to help us if we level ourselves to the same level of others. There is scientific research showing to us that when we stay kind, we liberate a neurochemical named oxytocin. Oxytocin is a molecule, a neurochemical that binds us to other people. And people who don't feel well connected or too connected to others, they lack some levels of this neurochemical. But when we feel kind and we want to be close, we have the liberation of this neurochemical. And it's good to know, if you go to a website that summarizes much of this research, it's kindnessfoundation.com. They talk about the health and social benefits of kindness. The research says that 90% of people report greater emotional well-being, less depression, and they can stimulate kindness in others, because kindness is contagious in a good way, of course. But there are also spiritual benefits of kindness. For example, when the Dalai Lama said, "My religion is kindness," when our dear Leon Denis, I have good news. Dr. Mehl-Madrona is calling us, so hold on, guys. Yeah, this is live radio. Okay, we're just calling him in so we can put him in on the line. Yay! Let's see. It's going to work. Hello?
Hello, it's Louis.
Hi, Louis. Dr. Mehl-Madrona, welcome
Hi.
to radio. I'm happy you guys made it.
Yeah, we thought we would have a signal where we were, and we didn't. So we jumped in the car and drove to where we thought there'd be a signal, and now there is.
Oh, well, thank you so much to you and Barbara for making the efforts and being here with us. We really need this time. While we were waiting for you, we were just sharing some beautiful research on the benefits of kindness, the health benefits, and also the spiritual benefits, because it's such an important attitude in life, especially nowadays, when the world is really checking its value. So, Dr. Mehl-Madrona, thank you so much for being here with us. We know you have been working with Aboriginal communities, and you really are working very hard to bring a new paradigm to medicine. Can you tell us a little bit how you began this journey? I know you have the Cherokee and Lakota heritage, but beyond the heritage, how did you feel like gravitating to understanding more about this ancient healing mechanism?
Well, I really grew up in the philosophy with my grandparents, and medical school was a bit of a shock. I didn't realize that conventional medicine really didn't know anything about healing. And the story I like to tell about my realization of that is sitting in pharmacology class at Stanford and hearing the professors say, life is a relentless progression toward death, disease, and decay. The physician's job is to slow the rate of decline. And that just freaked me out. My grandmother and my great-grandmother would have never agreed with that. And so right after the lecture ended, I ran over to the Stanford Indian Center, walked in the front door, ran up to Henrietta Blue Eyes, who was sitting at the desk, and I said, I need an elder. And she said, what tribe? I said, Cherokee. She said, I got two. So by the next weekend, I was visiting a fellow named Gila in Ukiah. And those visits kept me sane through medical school. And also, we had a small support group of non-mainstream medical students. So the Indians, the Latinos, and our friend Wise, who was from Hong Kong, who told us how things worked. Wise was very wise about the ways of the world, and he explained it to us. So that was how I got started in all this. And, at least for Aboriginal people, culture is healing and life-saving. We met a young man recently who was living on the reservation in South Dakota, where it's more than 80% unemployment, and where most of the young men just sit around drinking and talking about suicide. Wow. And he met an elder who helped him throw himself into culture. And he became a dancer, started winning contests at powwows, started learning language, and turned around his life. And I think that we probably all agree that these simple ideas of the power of community and the importance of helping each other and the power of spirituality are crucial to healing and need to be brought into medicine. So that's really how I got into this. And of course, in communities themselves, there's not always agreement on this. There's a lot of Christianization that's occurred. There's usually the sort of the traditionals, the Christians, and the don't care about anything camps that are frequently arguing with each other.
But Dr. Mehl-Madrona, let me just bring an observation here. Because, for example, in the Spiritist teachings, we bring the Christ teachings, but from a different perspective, one that really encompasses a greater, embracing of, for example, what you get to know from the Native American community. So I think that probably the ones that brought the Christianization, they really left out some of the greatest parts of the teachings brought in, by the Christ consciousness. Don't you think so?
Yes, and I would point to Thomas Merton as an example of a different kind of Christian who understood this. And we recently contributed a couple chapters on Merton and Native Americans to a book of essays celebrating Merton's life. So I do agree with you. I think what was unfortunate is the government and certain Christian groups teamed up to eliminate culture from Native American life. And it certainly, it certainly wasn't what you're talking about in terms of Christ consciousness. There's another really fabulous book by a priest named Puhlman, who wrote a book called Christ is a Native American. And he really speaks to this also. So I do agree that there's huge variance within Christianity. And my first experience of a purification lodge happened when it was still illegal. And there was a priest who came to the ceremony with his collar, so that if the police showed up, he would put on his collar and proclaim that we were undergoing a proper Catholic rite. So his name was Father Stone, and he was an amazing guy. He went to all the ceremonies on the reservation so that the police couldn't do anything. And everyone loved him, and everyone went to his ceremonies on Sunday morning. He packed the church with people, because everybody just liked him. So there were certainly notable exceptions like Father Stone. Another interesting guy that comes to mind, one of my all-time heroes, is a fellow named John Charles. And John was a really interesting man. He was an Episcopal priest in Saskatchewan. And when he was 60, he developed cancer, a brain cancer. And he was told that he had a month to live. And so his methods, his Episcopal methods weren't working. So he went to see a healer from his tribe, which was Cree, from Sturgeon Lake Reserve. And his cancer disappeared. And then he was in a quandary because he said to himself, well, I've been Episcopal all my life, but it was these native ways that worked. And then he had a dream of Christ surrounded by 4 elders in the 4 directions, all of them smoking the pipe. And he realized that it was all the same. That there wasn't any inherent contradiction unless you made one. And so he took up the traditional healing, but on the tree behind his sweat lodge, Acacia Lodge, I should say, he always had a picture, one of those sort of campy pictures of Jesus draped in purple cloth. And he was someone that found a way to integrate everything in a really healing way for, I think, a lot of people, because at least in his day, people struggled, with how to integrate the traditional Christian that they, been drawn into, but wasn't necessarily as inclusive of culture as could be. So certainly there's really wonderful examples of people who carry that consciousness and bring it into whatever they do.
Very interesting, Dr. Mehl-Madrona. And I hear I actually read in your website that, since you are a physician, you also have in your website, Mehl-Madrona.com, you talk about your goal to provide necessary information so people would get to know more about what's going on. And you say about furthering of a paradigm shift within medicine, psychiatry, and psychology towards aligning with indigenous knowledge systems, etc. So, knowing, you have been involved with several teaching in several locations, medical schools, mainstream and out of the mainstream. So what is your current take on the status of it? Do you think we are getting closer to the possibility of being a more holistic medicine or not?
I think we are, and I think we have osteopathic physicians to thank for that. There's been a blossoming of osteopathic medical schools, and inherent in their teaching are some of these principles of holism. And their founder was Andrew Taylor Still, who turned his back on the conventional medicine of his day in the 19th century and studied the medicine of the tribes around him, who were the Pawnee, the Shawnee, and the Cherokee, and really brought that into healing practice. One of our friends, Nita Renfrew, wrote a marvelous essay about the influence of these tribes, of people, healers from these tribes, on Still's development of osteopathy. And so I see the osteopathic graduate thinking much more holistically and much more in terms of community than the allopathic graduates, the MD graduates. And especially in Maine, because our only medical school is osteopathic. We in our training program for family doctors, we take at least half osteopaths and half MDs. And so, at least in Maine, I certainly see that it's coming in the young people that are in training. I think our challenge is that the institutions are set in their ways, and we have a big job ahead of us to change the institution. But the people are thinking more holistically and more spiritually now than when I was in school. So I'm optimistic.
So I agree with you. But regarding the curriculum, I'm just asking you this because since you have this goal, and being in academia as well, I know it takes time for the curriculum to change because it depends on the faculty and their close contact with the latest advancement. Do you see how the curriculum is incorporating more on the understanding of a holistic approach on medicine?
I think the osteopathic curriculum is, and has for some time. I'm not so positive about the MD medical school.
Yeah.
But one change that's made this more possible, in many medical schools now we don't have lectures, so that it's all problem-based learning in small groups. And it's much more possible in a small group to bring these ideas out. And it becomes much more dependent upon the students themselves and the individual physician mentor. And there are physician mentors who are very committed to these ideas. For instance, we have in our residency, there's a Penobscot physician who works for the Indian Health Service on Indian Island, which is a reservation in a place called Old Town, Maine, which is near Bangor. And he brings these ideas to his teaching of the medical students who come from University of New England and also from University of Vermont. And I certainly try to incorporate these ideas. And we do really simple things, like we discourage disparaging conversations about people who get disparaging conversations, like the alcoholics who keep showing up in the emergency department. I try to turn the conversation to wondering, terrible events in their life brought them to that place. Recently we interviewed a guy who was saying that it was only after a few drinks that his life was bearable. And that led us to talking about the terrible conditions in which he grew up and how his life became unbearable. So just little things like trying not to label people as hopeless alcoholic, but looking at their life as a story, I think makes a difference. And the presence of our, we have an osteopathic medicine fellowship, and they have an inpatient consulting service. And so here's an example. This week, I was called to see someone because the neurologist thought they had conversion disorder, which is to say that the pain and tingling in this woman's arms were, quote, all in her head. And this was because the neurologist said so. So we went to see her, and we had an osteopathic student with us. And we listened to her symptoms and let the student do an osteopathic exam. And she came up with the diagnosis right away and said, I could help her. So we called the hospital doctor and said, well, we don't think it's conversion disorder. We think it's somatic dysfunction between the fifth cervical vertebra and the third thoracic. Mm-hmm. And we'd like you to call an osteopathic consult and see if it doesn't relieve her symptoms. And unfortunately, in this case, he blew it off. He just thought this was nonsense. But not everyone thinks that way. And we were able to tell the woman, hey, we don't think you're crazy. We think you have a musculoskeletal problem, and here's the names of some people you could call when you're discharged, potentially. Mm. So I think it's there in subtle ways, and it'll take more time for it to further blossom. But I think the seeds have been planted, and they're starting to grow.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about a multidimensional approach on healthcare, and as you bring in your books and in your practice elements that you found out in the Native American communities, can you tell us about what is out there bringing to us that we can possibly incorporate into healthcare as a whole?
Well, I can give you an example. Working with a health center, a Native American health center in Bangor, on the problem of people who come to the emergency department frequently. And many of them feel excluded from the mainstream health care. They're Native American. They feel discriminated against. They feel a kind of structural racism that's inherent in conventional service delivery. And they just won't go until they're so sick that they go to the emergency department. And so we've created a safe space for them in the Native American Health Center, and in which we have nursing, and we can prescribe medicine, and we can do, there's people there who can provide culture, and we can do work inside the group, both with culture and with more conventional psychotherapeutic techniques like cognitive behavior therapy or dialectical behavior therapy. And our goal is for them to feel like they have a safe place to work on their health challenge. and to avoid going into the emergency department, by nipping their crisis in the bud before it gets to the point where they're so sick that's their only option.
Mm-hmm.
So that's multidimensional. We're including spiritual, cultural,
Yes.
Pharmacological, psychological, psychiatric, case management, and hopefully we'll have we just started this, but hopefully we'll have a big impact on emergency department use, and people will be healthier, and the world, it'll cost less. If we can show that, we'll get even more buy-in.
So, Dr. Mehl-Madrona, we understand, for example, in Spiritism we call the spiritual body perispirit. Irrespective of the name of it, we understand that the roots of the causes are never in the physical body. They are just a reflex, like a mirror image, if possibly, of what's happening deeper into us as spirits, connected to the physical body through the spiritual body. Several of Spirit Doctors Andre Lewis' books in Spiritism talk about several diseases that are generated in the mind, the feelings, and then go to the spiritual body and then appear imprinting in the physical body. Do you find it to be also one of the ways in which we can explain the efficacy of the methods used in Native American healing as well? Because it goes to the spiritual body?
I do, and that's also the perspective of most of the elders that I know who do healing, is that one of them said all healing is spiritual healing, that we start with healing the soul, healing the spirit, and that ripples out into the physical body. And I think that view is really the same. And, we have Eduardo Duran talks about soul wounds, when the kind of trauma, cultural and personal, it's so severe and deep that it damages the soul. And in order to heal that, one has to first heal the soul. So I think it's very simpatico, these views, which is really different from the typical conventional medicine approach to throw drugs at symptoms. And we want to get away from that. One of the big problems we have is a class of drugs called proton pump inhibitors. And they're drugs that treat heartburn, but they're not approved by the FDA to use longer than 8 weeks. People are on them for 20 years. And what they do is they block the absorption of minerals. So you can no longer absorb iron, copper, zinc, manganese, magnesium. And people are beginning to suggest that this is an important contributor to Alzheimer's disease, is being on these proton pump inhibitors. But the philosophy of putting people on them and staying on them is to suppress the symptom. It's not, well, let's look at why you have heartburn. Like, what's going on, that your food doesn't want to stay down. Maybe you're eating the wrong kind of food. That's one of the simplest answers. What else is tying up your stomach in knots so that it's pushing your food back up? And when we start asking these questions, we get long-term results and not just suppression of symptoms. So
you're talking also about prevention, right? Prevention through healthy habits, through the cultivation of spirituality. And there's another element that I understand that exists also in the Native American healing that we also, talk much about in Spiritism, which is the fact that there are spirit healers. There are spirit doctors in the spirit realm who are assisting people who are willing, from physicians to nurses to whomever. You don't have to have a degree to be assisted or guided by a spirit guide that is willing to help heal someone. What do you think about that element, and how do you think we can someday make a greater room or some room for that reality in healthcare?
It's definitely what we're taught by the elders. They teach that that when we work with someone, that we're a hollow bone for spirits to flow through, and that it's spirits that do the healing, and we just provide a safe place for the medicine. So that one of the elders that I know is really funny. He said, "Never take credit for healing, but if they offer you a gift, you can take that." So it's that idea, and one of the beautiful prayers that we heard recently from an elder, he was talking about someone he knew who he couldn't help, and he asked the Creator and the spirits to go visit Jack. He said, "Go visit Jack. You guys made him. I didn't make him, and I can't help him, but maybe you can. So go visit him. Would you help him out?" So, I think that's inherent in the culture. It's that idea that, one elder in Saskatchewan told me, the context, there was a conference on increasing the number of Native Americans in health and technology. And there were some people protesting outside that the secrets were being given away, the secrets of Native American healing. And he was genuinely puzzled, He looked at me and he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "I don't got any secrets." He said, "I got some spirit friends who can do powerful things." He said, "Sometimes they're downright annoying." He said, "Some of them I've been trying to give away, but nobody will take them." He said, "Nobody wants them." But I guess I'm stuck with them. He said, "What are they talking about, secrets?" And I said, "I think they think you have these secret remedies and potions that they don't want the mainstream culture to know about." He said, "Nah, I got nothing. I just got some powerful friends in the spirit world." So that's a pretty common attitude.
Yeah. Dr. Mehl-Madrona, we're going to have one very short break, and potentially when we come back, we have some listeners who have called in and have questions. Is that okay?
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Hey, kids!
Did you know that Kardec Radio is now for you?
We, Mark,
and Carol,
are going to tell you the most beautiful, exciting, fun stories ever.
All with messages of love and hope that will make your heart smile.
Tune in to Kardec Radio Mondays beginning October 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for
Stories from the Heart at Kardec Radio for Kids.
Of course, if you miss us, you can always find us on demand at kardecradio.com.
If you like our stories, write to us or send your drawings to kardecforkids@gmail.com.
We can't wait to see you then.
Bye.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
If you missed out on any previous shows, no worries. We have an on-demand section of all previous shows and interviews. Go to our website at www.kardecradio.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Help prevent suicide by reading and sharing these books with others. 2 great books are available to help in this Kardec Radio campaign to prevent suicide. Suicide, All You Need to Know, by the international Spiritist speaker Richard Simonetti. You can buy your copy at www.roundtablepublishing-uk.com. Also, Memoirs of a Suicide by the medium Yvonne Pereda. Buy your copy today at www.ediceiofamerica.com.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Kardec Radio now offers more programs during the week and weekends. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can follow the beautiful program God at Home with Francisca Kranz and the British Spiritist community. They will brighten your days by doing a God at Home meeting wherever you are in the world, while teaching you how to do the same in your own home with your family and friends. Every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will hear incredibly inspirational Spiritist talks directly broadcasted by Spiritist Network. They will be true educational moments to carry out to immortality. Every Saturday, live interviews, Bridging Health and Spiritism with the host Dr. Vanessa Anceloni. You may ask questions to the interviewed guests by calling 858-769-4705. And every Sunday, tune in to Spiritist Awareness at Kardec Radio. You will hear a series of segments on a diversity of Spiritist topics. Kardec will broadcast the Spiritist Moment with Kirsten DeMello, the reading of the Spiritist book by John DeRosa and Steve Shepard, Spiritism in Your Life with Drs. Marco and Joyce Magalhães, Spiritism and the Gospel with Luis Sergio Marotta, Spiritist Education for Youth and Children with Bernadette Leal, Spiritist Music with James Marotta, Neuroscience and Spiritism with Dr. Vanessa Anceloni, and many more segments coming soon. Enjoy it all and nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
And now we return to our program.
Yes, dear listener, we're here talking to Dr. Luis Mehl-Madrona, who is kindly here with us. And he's talking about the shifting paradigm in medicine, and basically mostly based on the teachings from Native American medicine. He has several books on the topic, and you're invited there. He's going to have workshops in Kripalu Center this May, so you search for it and you have more information. Dr. Luis Mehl-Madrona, we have here a listener named Barbara who would like to ask you a question. Is that okay?
Yes, definitely.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello. Thank you
for
taking my call.
Thank you. To ask him a question, okay?
Yes. I have been on, as you were just speaking about the proton pump inhibitors. Prior, I had a deviated septum. Consequently, ever since that deviated septum was fixed, that's when the proton pump inhibitors started. I know that's it. Now, the therapeutic dosage is one every day, and for many years, I've been on them since 1991, I would say. Long time, too long.
Yeah.
Instead of taking one a day, I've gotten to the point where I could go to 4 days. But by the fourth day, that's it. How do I get off of them?
Well, I think it's good to have help, and there's often good resources or naturopathic doctors, which most states have, or MDs or DOs who practice holistic medicine. And Andy Weil you can search under Andy Weil heartburn, and he has a marvelous set of ideas about how to get off these kinds of drugs. I would say you can't do it abruptly because you get a rebound. Mm-hmm. So it's really important. My dog seems to be all excited by your question too. I think my dog is trying to say, eat like a dog.
I love a dog.
Yeah. So my dog eats better than I do probably. He's on a completely Paleolithic diet. So he
That's
doesn't
what
seem to
my
have
dog
any
was
heartburn.
when I had her. I fed the dog total raw, and she lived to 14.
How about that?
And I never gave her that flea and tick stuff that they put on the front liner or anything. Never had the dog's teeth cleaned. I gave her a marrow bone, and I would stick it in the freezer so she'd have to work on it a little more. So it's the best way to go.
Yeah, if we treated ourselves as well as we treat our dogs, we'd be in a lot better health.
Absolutely.
All right. So thank you so much, Barbara, for your presence at Cardiac Radio and for your questions. Thank you. So, Dr. Luis Mehl-Madrona, we are here in our final moments at the program today. I know there are many people who are listening to us and would like to ask more questions, and we are going to recommend to them, because of time, you can send an email to us, cardiacradio@gmail.com. We're going to forward it to Dr. Luis Mehl-Madrona so you can get, your question to him. Dr. Mehl-Madrona, what would you like to share with us as your final comments today for the listener who is listening to us now live or later on demand? And we have listeners in more than 96 countries around the world. What would you like to share as your final statement today at Cardiac Radio, please?
Well, I think probably the most important factor that I can think of is that we need each other, and that that if people are isolated, they need to find a way to be less isolated. And we often suggest to people to call everyone they know and invite people to a gathering to talk about how to be healing for each other. And it turns out that almost everyone has something they can do that's healing. Some people know Reiki, some people know healing touch. Everybody can pray. There's always something. So I would say try that. It really works, and you might be really surprised at how many people want to get together with other people for healing and just are afraid to ask, or are afraid they'll be silly, or that people will make fun of them. And amazing results can come from that. And some churches already do that. We used to be a part of the Spiritualist Church in Rochester, New York, and they had regular healing circles in which people could be healing for each other. I think that's really an amazing first step that anyone can take.
Yeah. I'm truly moved by your recommendation. It's so beautiful. We rarely hear these words, and we have to say this, Dr. Mehl-Madrona, thank you so much for your work and for all the efforts you and Barbara make to help us heal the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So, dear listeners, think about that. Let's just feel it first. The recommendations by Dr. Mehl-Madrona. Let's not isolate ourselves. We need one another. Let us share what heals us with others. And always be assured that, when we're together, life is much, much better. It's the law of life. We are a society. We are together. Trust that it's always better to be together. Always better. And let us be very grateful for these moments. We thank everybody who is here with us and who has called in If we haven't taken your question, please, because of time, we apologize and we would like to hear from you. Please drop us a line at cardiacradio@gmail.com and we'll be able to address your question or forward to Dr. Mehl-Madrona if that's the case, okay? For now, we'd like to invite you to wrap up the program with us in a very special way. You know, we use prayerful visualization moments to really collect, new energies, but also to be one with one another and the source, God, whatever we name it. Doesn't matter the name. What matters is the reality. We know we are here for a beautiful reason. So let us now exercise in these very crucial moments on the earth. We really need to be together. Let's be together now in feelings, thoughts, vibrations. Let us breathe in and out, feeling that we are one in the beauty of existing, no matter the challenges we're experiencing. Thank you, dear Mother, Father, God, for the opportunity of being here and bringing to our presence Dr. Mehl-Madrona, supported by the dear Barbara, as they stopped in their journey in this day to be with us and share wisdom, friendship, and kindness. Thank you for giving us new hope and pathways in which we need to walk in, trusting that we're never alone. May these healing thoughts and feelings be showered upon everyone on the earth right now, multiplied by your infinite love. May you continue to inspire the works of Dr. Mehl-Madrona and his wife, his team. And may all the healthcare givers in the world be inspired in your love and light. And so be it. Dear listener, what a joy. What a joy to be with you. What a joy to know that we are here for a beautiful purpose. Next week, we're going to be here with Dr. Andrew Moreira from Brazil. He is the medical coordinator of field expeditions to Mozambique, Africa. He has been doing great works as a family practitioner and also a family constellation therapist. But he's going to talk about a unique way in which we can help other people in this world as well. All these people making a difference in lives of many others, and you can make a difference in the lives of all of us by praying, by thinking good thoughts, by being kind. You know, we can change the things around us by really making our lives better and happier. If you're happier, we'll feel it, and we'll be encouraged to be happy too. Thank you so much, and don't forget, Cardiac Radio is here with 5 days a week for you. Different programs every day, almost every day of the week. And you can also listen to the previous programs at iTunes. We have a channel there, and you can download in your smartphone, in your tablet, and listen to us wherever you are in this world. For now, we wish you lots of blessings and feel our hug of gratitude to all of you who are supporting this works at Cardiac Radio.
Thank you for listening to Cardiac Radio. broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.